What is going on, everybody? I'm Benign, the friendly spine of all time, and welcome back to this brand new Cactus Chat of mine. So, we've got ourselves a question from a subscriber / member of the channel. Mr. Orion Knight asks, are games fun for a streamer? A lot of them stream as a job and kind of forget about how enjoyable a game can be. Now, before I answer this and give my little 2 cents and give my little baby opinion about this, if you do anything regarding content, video game content, video game live streaming, drop some comments, let me know what you think. If you don't, you can also drop some comments and let me know what you think. Feel free to answer as well. That's what I'm saying. Here's the situation. Here's the sitch. When it comes to this, I'm going to break this down into a few different points. Now, when we talk about doing it as a job, we're talking part-time or we're talking full-time. What's the audience size that you have? Single player, multiplayer? There's a lot that can go into whether a game can stay fun and whether or not gonna be a good time for you, okay? First things first, we're gonna go with the part-time versus full-time, all right? As a job, this is regarding whether or not, say, streaming is a quote-unquote side hustle, or you've made it big enough to the point where you got a lot going on for you and you're streaming full-time. I feel that the part-time is actually going to be more draining than the full-time. That, oddly enough, that's actually how I feel about this. I feel part-time streaming and part-time content creation will be more draining than actual full-time, because if you're doing part-time stuff, you've got a lot more going on outside and you bring a lot more with you when you start streaming. Okay, so when you're streaming, maybe you're streaming right after work, or maybe you're streaming, you know, just before work or anything. Like, you have more going on to where your mind isn't as set sometimes, okay? So if you're talking in that regard, it might not be as fun. You might have some days that are really rough. And so I'm speaking from kind of personal opinion and personal experience, okay? So in terms of full-time, doing it without having to worry about, you know, having to go to work, the only time I can really discuss that is like, okay, on a weekend. Okay, I have a long weekend, or, you know, it's the weekend. Say it's a Saturday. Okay, I can spend my whole day getting ready to stream and getting ready to do this and that, and I can go in fresh and just ready to go, and I can enjoy myself. All right, so I think that factor is oddly enough, if you're part-time in it, it's actually less fun than if you're full-time in it. Okay, so that's one area. We are now moving on to our audience size, our chat, our community. Now, this is a positive and a negative, and it all depends on the day, it depends on the people, it depends on the game. It all depends, because this here is something that can really deter you, or it can amp you up. And if you're watching this and you don't know what I'm talking about with this, I will explain this. So if you're live streaming, you are being a social butterfly. That is what you are doing, okay? Your battery's charged up, your social battery is charged up, and you are going at it, and you are talking to people in the chat, and you are just being such an extroverted human being, right? So you got all that going on, and you have your community, you probably have your regulars, and you're playing a game and you're having a grand old time. And this is where it's just like any other job. I'm gonna go with retail. I'm going to explain this through the lens of retail, because I have some stupid experience with retail. And you experience people. People come in wherever you're working, your place of business, and next thing you know, hello, how are you? Attitudes, just a bunch of just grumpy Gus, right? Just nothing but a grumpy Gus, nothing but a negative Nancy. And that, my friend, it's just like any other job in that respect, because it doesn't matter on the game. You can be having a great time, 30 minutes in, somebody comes in with some whack ass energy, and you are just like, you know what? Boy, I think I'm gonna take these batteries out and just throw them in the trash right now, because you just really, man, just melted the mood with that. You know, so and I'm talking about people that come in, you're playing whatever game you're playing, and they're just being a trash human being. However, the thing is, if you're doing it as a job, it's just like any other job. It's just like you're doing retail business. You're just like, you gotta go about your day. You gotta get your hours in. You gotta spend the time doing it. If you're doing it as a hobby, if you're doing it for fun, then it's like, all right, you know what? I think I'm good here for today. And you can, you know, whatever, go another 20 minutes and then close the stream down and just call it a day. If you're doing this for a job, granted, I will say this before anyone says anything. You got people coming in like that. That's where either your moderators come in, or that's, you know, you got the block button. You got the block button, and by all means, do not be scared to use it. I've used it plenty of times. People come in with some negative trash, shoo them right away. Right underneath the door you go. They can go away. Just because you're live streaming for a job, and just because you're playing video games for a job, does not make it, you know, a fine and dandy fun day, because you're still dealing with people. I mean, sure, you can also stream with no chat on, which I think is maybe a little silly, but by all means, you can do that. That is a thing. That is a possibility. So if you got a large audience, you have more potential for that. If you have a smaller, medium-sized, a little more humbling audience, then maybe you might not have to deal with that. But it's also, anyone who live streams can be subjected to it. You can have one viewer and you can be subjected to one person coming in being just garbage, you know? So there lies that. There lies the potential for those problems. Are streams still fun when you're full-time and you're doing it for a job? And here we have the idea of the games that you're playing. If you're playing a single-player game, I will say that I think there's more potential for you to keep having fun, because most likely those games have an end game and you have more variety. Okay, you play the game, you beat the game, you move on to another game. Whereas you're playing a multiplayer game, most likely, you know, let's go with, right now I'm big on Marvel Rivals. I'm playing a lot of Marvel Rivals. It's a multiplayer game. It's a lot of the same thing over and over and over and over again. You're doing the matchups, you're doing the matches. It's all the same, and there lies your potential for it to not be that fun, because you can burn out, depending on what you're doing, right? Because me personally, I don't do ranked games. I just play quick play, because I just play to have fun. I try to keep it fun. However, if you're playing a ranked situation, that gives you more time to grind, because you're like, I have to hit this rank, I have to hit this rank. So you do have a goal, and there are end goals even in the multiplayer aspect of it, but it's still a lot of the same. It's a lot of repetition. Whereas a single player, sure, you know, depending on the gameplay mechanics, you can have repetition, but it's like you're playing through usually the story of the game, beating the game. Okay, I beat the game, we're moving on to another game. Whereas, okay, we finished the match, we're moving on to another match of the same type of thing. The audience falls into the multiplayer, because if you have a large audience, then you can swap players in and out. If you're playing a team-based game, you can be like, all right, you know, Jack, Jeff, and John, you're in right now, and then Mark, Mel, and Marvin are in next, and all this and that. You know, you can switch things around there. So there is variety there as well, but you have to watch yourself, because you can burn out. Okay, you can burn out playing the same game, doing the same thing over and over again. You think it's fun for 6 months, and then the next thing you know, that 7th month comes around and you're just like, bro, I can't play this game. I need to change games. And then you change games, and next thing you know, you go from X number of viewers to Y number of viewers, and you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna suck it up and I'm gonna play this game that I really don't want to play. So it kind of sucks the fun out of it. So I'm gonna cut this here. I'm gonna end this here. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Give me some ideas. You want my opinion on something? You want to hear my take on something? Even though, you know, who am I to give my thoughts on anything, right? I'm just a little old me, you know. But anyways, I'm Benign Cactus. All the love is appreciated, and I appreciate you. This is gonna be a good old solid yep. Still snapping my fingers and
This is it. Halo's control center. That terminal, try there.
You all right?
Never been better. You can't imagine the wealth of information. The knowledge, so much, so fast. It's glorious.
So, what sort of weapon is it?
What are you talking about?
Let's stay focused. Halo, how do we use it against the Covenant?
This ring isn't a cudgel, you barbarian. It's something else. Something much more important. The Covenant were right. This ring, it's Forerunner. Give me a second to access. Yes, the Forerunner built this place, what they called a fortress world, in order to... Wait. No, that can't be. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known. There must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something, buried in this ring, something horrible, and now they're afraid.
Something buried?
The captain. We've got to stop the captain.
Keys?
The weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here, find keys, stop him. Before it's too late!